All right. I think we're live with our Q&A now. Fantastic. Thanks for your talk, Bryson. Really appreciate it. I know you were looking forward to coming out in person, and Omicron kind of delayed that, so sorry about that.
Mucho sadness.
Indeed. Well, let's see if we have some questions. Folks that are in either the discussion or into the Q&A in Discord, you can feel free to pop your questions in here. So let's take a look and see what we've got. We have people saying great talk, which it was. Looking into the C2 matrix, good ideas. So, in your talk, you mentioned something about talking to your boss. And for a lot of people, this is going to be a really intimidating and awkward conversation. Do you have any recommendations of how you would start that conversation or ask for that conversation with your boss?
Yeah. So, I don't know that everyone is as intimidated of talking to their immediate boss, but I think that's the first starting point, which also, even if you are intimidated talking to your boss, is recognizing everybody else has a boss. And as we go further up that chain, the less they have any clue about what you do, right? They're busy doing other things. And that's one of the key takeaways that I wanted to imprint with everyone, is that understanding that in cybersecurity, we get frustrated a lot because we're like, well, why don't they get it? And why doesn't the business understand and appreciate what we're doing? Mm-hmm. And the reality is they're doing, for the most part, just fine without us until that very moment, of course, when what we were predicting would happen does happen. And so I'm trying to help, with talking with your boss, understanding their boss, their pressures, what they're trying to do, and then how that aligns with the business itself will reduce your frustration, as well as hopefully head off some of those things before they do happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So in terms of how to do that, there's no reason to have an adversarial relationship with your boss. They're a human being too. So starting with little things, establishing small talk. How's the weather? What did you think? What did you do last weekend? It sounds silly, but it's a starting point to a conversation where you can then start to feel more comfortable with asking more pointed questions. Like, so what really was happening last week at this event? And we're trying to do these things. Why are we trying to do them? What's the point? That's where I also recommended starting to get more into the business speak, with tying things to like, well, what are we trying to accomplish this quarter? What are the key performance indicators, or OKRs? That's the latest buzzword out of the Silicon Valley, is OKRs, which is really just objectives. So what are things we're trying to accomplish? And how are those being measured? And that'll give you a lot of insight into what's driving them and their own, pressures and decision-making calculus.
Right. Yeah, and I think what you mentioned is really important about the language, the buzzwords. Those actually mean something, to bosses all the way up the chain, and figuring out how to translate is, I think, the crux of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think also asking, and how can I help? Bosses love to know that you want to help.
Yep.
So that's valuable too. You mentioned in one of your slides also, the kind of difference between regulation and real security. And this is something, we were walking to lunch and talking about this precise thing, actually. So any examples about what kind of real security things tend to fall through when we only focus on regulation?
Yeah, so the intent of that slide was even more than that. I wanted to start with, so I think everybody gets that compliance is not real security in our field, right? If you're in cybersecurity, 99.x% understand that statement. The problem is then when they do that, they look down on the requirements. They look down on the need for that, or that the business looks at it that way. Why does my boss push me about a checklist? It's stupid. It's not real security. Well, the reality, again, going back to the business perspective, is that checklist is existential. The business is not legally allowed to operate unless that checklist is met. And so recognizing that is where I used it in the concept of Maslow's hierarchy of, we have to start here before we can do any of the other things, right? It's like, eat your veggies before you're allowed to go get chocolate chip cookies. And in this case, real security is the chocolate chip cookies. And so following that through, real security then is, how do I build off the checklist concept, which is exists everywhere in some form to start to piece together things that will make a difference for applied security to business needs.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. And I think one other thing that is maybe not like central to your talk, but that people might be interested in is your career trajectory and how you started a business. Anything that you wanted to mention about that's a big leap that I know a lot of people are curious about.
Sure. In fact, I have a talk on that. So if you
Awesome.
you Google my name or entrepreneurial adventures, I've given the talk at DEF CON and a few other places. In fact, I'm giving it Monday night for Washington State University. So one of the things I like to do as part of giving back to the community is speaking and interacting with college students. So I'm happy to come and speak at colleges, answer their questions. And to me, the best one is that one, right? What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? Because the starting point is understanding how does business work, right? Cybersecurity is a part of business. It does not fit by itself. And starting your own company is inherently a business. And so in that talk, I go through the different models of businesses, why that's important, why you should care, what does that mean? And I think everybody finds it interesting to actually kind of like, oh, so that's everything that's going behind the curtain on this whole place that I work at. To start a business, I think comes down to two key characteristics. And one that I think everybody assumes intuitively is you need to be the smartest or the best at something. Look at me. Like, the blank look is not faked. I am not the best or the smartest at anything. What I do have and what I do think an entrepreneur requires is one, passion. And that word gets thrown around a lot, but what it means for an entrepreneur is you have to want to do this idea so badly that it hurts you not to do it. When you're starting a consulting company, it's because you want to apply those services your own way. When it comes to a product, the fact that that product is not out there bothers you. Because if you're trying to do it for money, first of all, most of us don't make money doing it. Not in the way you think. I mean, I'm clearly not doing this from a yacht. But that's what's going to get you going through the morning, because every business, of course, goes through hard times, right? Not everything goes smoothly. And the thing that's going to get you out of bed on those bad days is going to be that passion that you still want to make it happen, and you're going to go as far as possible. The second one is tolerance for BS. When you run your own company, everything comes down on you. You want to learn healthcare insurance for all 50 states? I didn't want to. I had to. Right? You have to. That's what is required to take care of your employees. That's what's required to run a company, is all of the administrative minutia, all of the details, all the regulations of things you don't care about. You have to. You have to care about that because nobody else will. So you have to be able to accept that you're going to be putting up with a bunch of stuff that is not core to what the company's purpose is, but is absolutely, just like the question earlier about regulation, it's mandatory.
Yep. And it comes down to taking care of the people that are going to be working for you, like you mentioned, and getting the job done that you wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, so branching off that, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but this is nothing to do with my presentation. Everything I would like to sort of follow that up to giving a call out to how I think we should all be approaching this in industry. Cybersecurity inherently is an industry that brings a certain type of person into it who has either an engineering mindset, has that passion and curiosity that drives wanting to understand and do things that are typically abstract to most folks. And as a result, right, so we never know when something's going to fail in our industry. This isn't like information technology or traditional engineering where I can engineer something to a particular quality assurance. We are defined by a threat that is continually changing and is inherently unknown. And so I think those attempts with that personality to want to learn everything and to be right creates constant anxiety in us because inherently we're never sure. I joke there are no experts because we're never sure. There is no objective measurement of security. It's just, I think it's working. Because even then when it's not, we don't know until we do know, right? Attackers don't get found immediately. And so the call that I would put out to everyone is kindness. What I mean by that is starting with kindness toward yourself, right? To reducing that anxiety, to looking at work-life balance, to recognizing you can't solve all of this. You can't be the individual hero to overcome a system, which is a business like I talk about in my talk, where they don't care about security, or where you are in a place that does, but you're under-resourced, or you're trying too hard, or you're, all of these things. So be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, because you can't take care of anything else without that. And then the corollary to that is treat everyone with that same kindness, because they're going through the exact same thing that you're going through.
Those are both really true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending your time with us at CactusCon. Hopefully we'll see you in person next year. If anybody has any additional questions, you can feel free to pop them in the Q&A in Discord or in the Track 2 hallway. And thanks again, Bryson, so much. I really appreciate it. Take care.